Um, Thank you everyone for to be here today. I know this is very early in the morning, so you must be very strong to be here today. This is the last day of the Congress. I hope you enjoyed every moment of it, especially the scientific day, because it was a very long day, but very constructive day, I think. Today is the Mayor's Workshop. As you may have seen, you have papers in front of you, so it means that we are going to make you work during the next 3 hours. So thank you again for everyone to be here today, and I invite Mr. Richard Mackay from Mackay Strategy to start this Mayor's Workshop. Thank you.
Good morning, mayors, friends and colleagues. We have a very engaging and busy program this morning that is building upon some of the presentations and discussions that have taken place during the week. As Manon indicated in her introduction, we had a very long but very fruitful scientific day together on Wednesday, and at the conclusion of that day, the meeting agreed some general recommendations which will be tabled later in this workshop for your consideration and possible consideration at the General Assembly later this afternoon. The workshop this morning is focused on the theme of the Congress and particularly on tools for engaging communities. And before handing over to some of my colleagues who will take us through the various steps in the workshop, we thought it would be useful to just highlight how community engagement is no longer regarded as something that is optional in a World Heritage management context. It is actually enshrined in a number of international statutes, conventions, and obligations. In the decades since the ratification of the World Heritage Convention in the 1970s, there has come to be a realisation that World Heritage cities are more than just the physical environment of buildings, infrastructure or parks, that World Heritage cities are also valued as homes, for the economic role that they play in the livelihoods of local people, and places which may be special for associated communities. There are a number of charters that deal with the roles of those communities, and a useful observation is made in the Borough Charter, which has been mentioned a number of times this week, which says that conservation, interpretation and management of a place should provide for the participation of people for whom the place has significant associations and meanings, or who have social, spiritual or other cultural responsibilities for the place. Now, while this charter is not necessarily adopted or accepted in many jurisdictions, it is very helpful because it talks about how the heritage is managed. It needs to be conserved, interpreted and managed, and that this should be done in a way which involves participation, not just by people who live or work there, but also people who have significant associations or who have spiritual or cultural responsibilities. So in the context of who is the community with whom we're engaging, the Charter draws that very widely to embody associated people. In relation to associated people, one of the things that was very strong in the discussions at the Scientific Day on Wednesday related to the rights of local people. And the concept of local communities having rights is something that is emerging in the heritage field, but it is well established, particularly with respect to Indigenous people. And the International Workgroup for Indigenous Affairs in 2012 identified that local community members are rights holders. They're not merely stakeholders, that they have rights in any decisions affecting them in accordance with their distinct status and rights under international law, and particular their right of self-determination. So this is something that a number of us need to bring into the management of our cities, how to engage with the rights of the associated communities. And relevantly, with respect to those rights, not the World Heritage Convention, but a related convention on the safeguarding of the intangible heritage observes that heritage is comprised of all objects, sites and knowledge. So it's not just the place, it's also the knowledge, the nature or use of which has been transmitted from generation to generation and which is regarded as pertaining to a particular people or territory. So in other words, the heritage has both tangible and intangible attributes, so it includes objects, knowledge and literary or artistic works which are created based on that heritage. In other words, there are values that are created in art or in products that derive from the heritage of a city. And a logical next step from recognising the cultural value of such intangible heritage is to recognise that it also has economic value as intellectual property. And here is a challenge for a number of us. It's a challenge that we certainly face in my home country of Australia, that is the ability to connect local people to the economic benefits which flow from the use of their heritage. And this is a matter that has also been widely addressed at an international level. The World Organisation on International Property in 1999 adopted a charter which was concerned about the widespread unfair exploitation of cultural heritage for commercial and business interests. And this was a matter which was taken up very strongly in the year of the 40th anniversary of the Convention of the World Heritage in Kyoto. And I think the Kyoto Principle encapsulates this very neatly, which is that benefits derived from well-protected cultural and natural heritage properties should be equally distributed to communities to foster their sustainable development. So the challenge that I am putting before you in the context of explaining these international conventions is not just managing our World Heritage cities in a way that engages with local communities or protects local communities from adverse effects. There is also an obligation to ensure that the local communities participate equitably in the benefits. This then ties very neatly with the Kyoto Vision, which is that people-centred conservation of the world's cultural and natural heritage is an opportunity to provide critical learning models for the pursuit of sustainable development and for ensuring a harmonious relationship between communities and their environment. In other words, they are saying that involving the people goes to the heart of a sustainable future. And so what does this mean? What does this mean for World Heritage cities, for the most senior elected officials who are responsible for their care and control and management? Well, it means we need to be mindful of the impacts on communities, and by impacts I mean both positive impacts and negative impacts. There is a need to respect culture, tradition and way of life. We need to be avoiding disruption to daily life and socio-economic impacts. We need to be facilitating significant uses and providing for equitable access to economic benefits and involvement of local people in decisions which affect them. Now, towards the end of the workshop today, we will distribute the specific words and recommendations that came out of the scientific day on Wednesday. But pending that, I'm very pleased to introduce my friend and colleague, Anna Pereira-Rodas from Eindhoven University. Are you talking next, Anna, or is Ilaria talking next? Okay, well, perhaps I'll quickly introduce the team. So we have Anna Pereira-Rodas from Eindhoven University, who will be taking us through a SWOT exercise. This is the homework, the work that you will do at the tables. Before that, I'll just jump over Hyun and say this is Ilaria Rossetti, who will introduce the survey that has been undertaken of World Heritage Cities. We have Eileen Orbasley from Oxford, who is one of the facilitators who will also be working with us in the workshop. You have already met Manon Offray. Then we have, from Oaxaca we have Gerardo, who will particularly liaise with our Spanish-speaking colleagues, and Hyunri, who will assist with the Korean speakers up the background. So it is for me only now to hand over to Ilaria, who will introduce both the content and the results of the survey. Thank you very much and enjoy your morning.